Andrew Cuomo is busted for his COVID restrictions. Elizabeth Warren defends Biden on a podcast, and it's really funny. So does Jessica Tarloff. We have Trump weighing in. Welcome to the Doug TenNapel channel. We even have some Chinese drones. Okay, let's read this one together. This first one, this is Cuomo. Breaking House Oversight Committee has sent a criminal referral to the Department of Justice on Andrew Cuomo. Lock him up for his lies. This goes to Pam Bondi from James Comer, the chairman of the Committee of Oversight for Government Reform. Dear Attorney General Bondi, on October 30th, 2024, the Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemic referred former governor of the state of New York, Andrew Cuomo, for making criminally false statements in violation of this order. To our knowledge, the Biden administration ignored this referral despite clear facts and evidence. Accordingly, we request that you review this referral and take appropriate actions for your reference. The referral is attached to this letter. Now, here is Pocahontas on a podcast defending Biden.
Do you regret saying that President Biden had a mental acuity? He had a sharpness to him. You said that up until July of last year.
I said what I believe to be true.
And you think he was as sharp as you?
She laughed. Did you see that? We got her. Do you think she's as sharp as you?
True.
And you think he was as sharp as you?
That's guilty.
I said I had not seen decline. And I hadn't at that point.
You did not see any decline from 2024 Joe Biden to 2021 Joe Biden?
Not when I said that. You know, the thing is, he was sharp. He was on his feet. I saw him live event. I had meetings with him a couple of times.
Senator, on his feet is not praise. He can speak in sentences is not praise.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Look, the question is, what are we going to do now?
Okay. Argument over. Man, that is really, really bad. Okay, we're going to go to CNN. Also part of that lie is the difference that a couple of years makes in their testimony. Here's Caitlin Collins versus Abby Phillip today.
President Biden has spent days locked in intense preparation, surrounded by his closest advisors at Camp David. And our sources are telling us tonight that full mock debates are underway at the podium, under the lights. He's even watching tape to know exactly what he's going to see when he steps up to that lectern. His team shot a video during a walkthrough of the CNN studio. And as I reported while covering him at the White House, when Biden prepares, he does so incredibly intensively. So just how...
That's last year. That was just last year, Caitlin Collins. So that's CNN relying on their reliable sources. Their reliable sources said, oh yeah, he's really prepping. He's sharp. He's going to blow this debate out of the water.
Intensively.
So just how worried were Biden aides before the former president's disastrous debate last summer? According to Ron Klain, his chief of staff, his concerns could not be overstated. At his first meeting with Biden for debate prep, quote, Klain was startled. He'd never seen Biden so exhausted and so out of it. Biden was unaware of what was happening in his own campaign. Halfway through the session, the president excused himself and went off to sit by the pool. Part about the pool, he went off, this is in the middle of debate prep, went off to the pool and he took a nap.
Took a nap, okay. Why aren't the CNN sources talking to each other? One of them told Caitlin Collins, oh yeah, he's on fire, never been ready, under the hot lights, prepping all day, all night. And now in hindsight, we find out, so she would have gotten the same information from this guy that said, Biden's in big trouble. I can't scream about it enough. Now, here's Jessica Tarloff on Trump. I just want to say that when they speak about Trump, they've discredited themselves already on Biden.
They're doing, because the second Supreme Court ruling that happened under the cover of darkness, which was to stop this flight full of Venezuelans, we know there were innocent people on that flight. There was someone on it who had been picked up as quote unquote Trenda Aragua because there was a picture on Facebook of him with a multicolored pistol that they were saying was actually a gun, but it was a toy. And they put out pictures of, I think, 9 people who were on this flight, even though there were pictures of him in 2 different boxes. So like prisoner number 8 and 9 was the same person. And they said, look at all of these tattoos. But if you actually did an analysis of the tattoos, you would see things like biblical verses, which I don't think mean you're in a gang, or the name Alexander tattooed in Arabic over the date, over 1986. So I understand that it's hard to say that you're sorry. And I have a toddler and I know what it's like when their face is covered in chocolate and they say, I didn't eat the cookies. I didn't eat the cookies, mama. But that's what's going on here. They need to slow down and follow the process. We're not against deporting people. Just get it right.
No, you're against deporting people, but here she is back in the Biden administration defending Biden, or not defending him, but she collapses here after Judge Jeanine says he's crazy.
I'm not trying to minimize anyone who wants to do harm. I'm just saying to stand here and say that President Biden is out of his mind for talking about this.
Johnny,
okay, I'm going to leave it on that. She collapses. I'm not saying Biden's out of his mind. Then Judge Jeanine says he is, and then she collapses. Yes, he was out of his mind. Now let's get to Kevin O'Leary. I like quoting him. This is on the tariffs. Let's get caught up on that. Get caught up on the tariffs here on the Megyn Kelly Show.
These tariffs are not going to be forever. This is a game of chicken. Two economies colliding with each other, one cheating and stealing, one not. At some point, you got to resolve the issue. And I think at some time in the near future, she's going to call Trump and say, okay, where do you want to meet? You want to go to Geneva?
Is he? Because whenever you hear somebody talk about this, who knows China, who knows knows Chinese culture, they say he'll never call, never. Like he cannot lose face. I mean, any communist country leader would be this way, and that includes him. That they just can't. He can't lose face. That's the last thing he'll do. And now Trump has to find a way of going to him. But, Trump's kind of like that himself as well.
Well, I can assure you within the Communist Party of China, there is a bunch of narrative going on about how long do they want to do this, because the only reason you stay in power in a communist society as a supreme leader is everybody's fed. They can take care of their families and they have jobs in factories. Now, what you could do, even though they're not making rubber mats anymore because they're all sitting on the water, no one's going to buy them. There aren't enough markets big enough to replace the American consumer. There just aren't. So at the end of the day, you got to start asking yourself, okay, if I'm Xi, do I print money so that I can pay these workers and then have hyperinflation where a loaf of bread, goes up 1,000%, the Venezuelan model? Or do I work something out with Trump so all this stuff we've made can get back into the market, including that woman's, rubber bib? I mean, somebody's got to buy that. There's not enough people around the world to buy that, except you got to have the 39% of the consumers are sitting in America. That's who's going to sell the product. That's why I would think at some point, because I'm a pragmatic guy. Again, I look at the policy. I know there's a lot of politics here, but if I'm Xi, I'm thinking, okay, how do I save face on this deal? What do I do here to get things going again so the stuff on the boats gets to America with no tariffs on it? All the Europeans have the guys in England right now today are saying, okay, let's drop our tariffs on agriculture so we can start shipping grain in both directions or whatever they want out of ag. German car parts, we talked about that. All of these guys are working this out. Xi has to do that too. Now,
wait, okay, before he moves on, will Xi break? Tell me in the chat below. Who will break first, Xi or Trump? Xi is spelled X-I. So just put in X-I will break or Trump will break in the chat below. Will Xi break first? Because they're both, as Megyn Kelly said, they're both kind of guys that do not break to do a deal. Who can outlast who? I think America can outlast China for economic reasons, right? We're so strong with our economy that we're not going to buy their goods that have a 400% tariff on them, right? They're not going to be a price winner anymore. It's going to take a little time for that to work out in our market. But China is going, we'll outlast them. China, the difference between America and China is America has a free mind and free speech. And that can cut against you guys because people are free to criticize Trump. And over in China, they're not free to criticize Xi. They all have to be on board, and they may all make that bet with him and go, you know what, we may be starving, but we're on with dear leader.
Is it going to take 2 weeks? Is it going to take 2 months? I don't know. But I guarantee you there's no scenario where Xi can outlast the American consumer, because that's really what you're talking about, Megyn.
If the American consumer are united and okay with taking a temporary hit, let me know in the chat below. Is America ready to take that hit?
At the end of the day, can he really cut himself off from the largest consumer market on earth? No. And so I'm on the camp that says, okay, let's see how long this game of chicken lasts. But would I like to resolve this thing once and for all? Let me speak on behalf of millions of investors and entrepreneurs in America. Yes, I want to do business in China. I'm willing to compete with Chinese on a level playing field, and I want to open the markets up. Yes. I have nothing against the Chinese people. I don't like their government. I don't like their policy. And if you're not going to change the government, then let's cut a deal to have a reciprocal tariffs or no tariffs, but definitely access to the markets, and definitely got to play by the rules. I would like to raise money in Hong Kong. I would like to approach their markets. I don't want to have my IP stolen. I don't want a 51% Chinese partner. We don't force that on Chinese companies here. But I'm telling you, it's time to clean this mess up once and for all. And yeah, it's uncomfortable, and the ebb and flow and the volatility. But I say to everybody, chillax. Let this administration get this thing done, and let's move on, because the last 20 administrations never dealt with it. This one is, you may hate Trump. You may have Trump derangement syndrome. I feel your pain for that. I don't care, because that's not what matters. It's the policy.
Okay, we'll give him that on policy. That's Kevin O'Leary on the tariffs. And then finally, we're going to end on this one. This is new from Trump, a tweet. Trump says, I'm doing what I was elected to do. This is in response to the Supreme Court. You guys saw me do that last video with Alito and the Supreme Court going against Trump, deporting aliens.
Early on, I joined many saying that Garcia should have been brought back under that order. He would have been deported again. I mean, he could have been deported back to El Salvador. And this has drawn out that case. The administration wants to fight on this hill. That's very obvious.
This is his response. I'm doing what I was elected to do, remove criminals from our country, but the courts don't seem to want me to do that. My team is fantastic, doing an incredible job. However, they are being stymied at every turn by even the U.S. Supreme Court, which I have such great respect for, but which seemingly doesn't want me to send violent criminals and terrorists back to Venezuela or any other country for that matter. People that came here illegally. The courts are intimidated by the radical left who are, quote, playing the ref, unquote. Great Supreme Court Justice Sam Alito correctly wants to dissolve the pause on deportations. He's right on this. If we don't get these criminals out of our country, we're not going to have a country any longer. We cannot give everyone a trial, because to do so would take, without exaggeration, 200 years. We would need hundreds of thousands of trials for the hundreds of thousands of illegals we're sending out of country. Such a thing is not possible to do. What a ridiculous situation we're in. Make America great again. There you go. So Trump, it does not sound like he's going to defy the Supreme Court. He's paying his respect to them.
The risk is always that you're going to alienate judges. Just this weekend, a very respected judge, a conservative judge in the Fourth Circuit, really cautioned the administration to de-escalate. And I think that those words should be heeded. You are going to need people like Chief Justice John Roberts and Barrett. You're going to need them for major cases that will define the legacy of this presidency. So there is a need to be cautious with these cases. The administration, however, has a legitimate point here. You know, the one thing about Trump in his first term, he complied with court orders. You know, he pushed them to the limit. He often said, he often had tough words for the courts, but he complied. But that's the value of clarity and finality.
But he just made the clearest case that Justice Roberts cannot argue with, that if you have to do a court case for every illegal alien that came in over the last 4 years, you could not adjudicate all those cases within 200 years. Therefore, the American system is broken. The Democrats found a weakness and broke it. And now that it's broken, are you going to keep going down that broken system? Justice Roberts, you're going to make the Constitution and our legal system look even worse by trying to make it work. You have to deport these illegals with probably a blanket due process, almost like a class action suit, where you go, look, you can't have individual suits. So we got these 1,000 people together. They're all in the same class. We're deporting them all. They're the same category. They all go bye-bye in clumps. Or Trump could just announce to all of them, this is blanket deportation for all of you if you don't self-deport. Make a public statement like that. What do you guys think? Does Trump get to deport his illegals? Does the voter have a say, or does the Supreme Court have a say? I'm Doug TenNapel. This is the Doug TenNapel channel.